The Houston Texans did not just improve this offseason, they became the kind of problem the AFC was hoping would stay unfinished. 1 year ago, this team looked dangerous but still incomplete. Now the weakness is being attacked, the defense is already feared, and CJ Stroud is standing in the middle of it with more pressure, more help, and a chance to change the whole story around Houston. This is not hype with no weight behind it. The front office looked at what broke, then moved fast to protect its quarterback, add power to the run game, and give this offense a better chance to match the defense. Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter still bring heat off the edge. Derek Stingley Jr. still gives Houston a corner who can take away space fast. And with DeMeco Ryans leading the room, the Texans now feel less like a young team trying to arrive, and more like a team tired of waiting. But the real twist is this. Houston did not lose last season because it lacked talent. It lost because the one crack everybody could see finally split open when the season got cold. That is why this offseason matters so much. That is why every move feels connected. And to understand why the Texans suddenly look this dangerous, you have to go back to the playoff night that forced everything to change. The playoff loss to the New England Patriots did not feel like a normal ending for the Houston Texans. It felt like a warning shot. CJ Stroud had already shown the league he could lift a franchise, but that night put every young quarterback lesson in one brutal place. The ball came out under stress, the rhythm disappeared, and Houston suddenly looked trapped inside a game it could not calm down. That is what made the loss so important. The Texans were not exposed as fake, they were exposed as unfinished. Drake May and the Patriots walked away with the kind of win that tells you where the standard really sits in the AFC. Marcus Jones made Houston pay when the chances came his way, and every mistake felt heavier because DeMeco Ryans had built a defense strong enough to keep the door open. The offense just could not step through it. For Nick Caserio, that night had to sting in a useful way. It showed the front office exactly where the season broke. Not in effort, not in belief, but in the moments when protection, timing, and patience had to hold together. That is why the next part of Houston's story is not about making noise. It is about rebuilding the one place that decides whether CJ Stroud gets revenge or watches another January slip away with the same painful question hanging over the franchise. Could the quarterback ever get enough time when everything tightens against top AFC pressure? The Houston Texans stopped pretending the problem was small. They did not patch the offensive line with hope and speeches. They brought in grown man answers. Braden Smith gives the right side real weight. Wyatt Teller brings the kind of edge that changes a pocket before the ball is even snapped. And suddenly, CJ Stroud is not looking at the same collapsing picture that haunted Houston before. That is the part the AFC has to notice. Ariante Ursary, Wyatt Teller, Keelan Rutledge, Ed Ingram, and Braden Smith are not just names on a depth chart. They are Houston admitting the truth. If your quarterback is special, you protect him like it. Keelan Rutledge matters even more, because the rookie arrives with first-round force, and his fight inside could steady the very spot that made this offense feel shaky when pressure closed in. The run game matters here too. David Montgomery was not added for decoration. He gives Houston a back who can lower his pads, steal hard yards, and stop defenses from hunting CJ Stroud every snap. Trent Brown adds more veteran size behind the main group, which means this line finally has layers instead of loose ends. Now the question changes. It is no longer whether Houston saw the problem. It is whether this rebuilt wall can hold when January noise returns again. Because this time, the whole season may swing on those 5 men up front. Now the pressure moves from the men around the pocket to the man making every choice inside it. CJ Stroud does not need a fairy tale season. He needs a grown quarterback season. The arm is already real. The calm has flashed before. But this year asks for cleaner answers, faster throws, and fewer gifts when defenses turn the picture ugly. That is where Nick Caley becomes one of the most important names in Houston. He is not just calling plays, he is trying to grow with CJ Stroud at the exact moment the franchise needs both of them to level up. Last season had rough patches, but rough does not mean broken. It means the timing, spacing, and trust had to survive real heat before they could become something dangerous. DeMeco Ryans did not bring in a new voice just to be safe. He wanted this offense dragged closer to the defense. And here is what makes it heavy. Nick Caley knows the New England Patriots world that helped end Houston's run. CJ Stroud knows that playoff pain is now attached to his name until he changes it. Together, they carry the swing vote on the entire season. If the offense finally finds control, Houston stops being a tough team with one bad flaw. It becomes balanced. And once that happens, the defense waiting on the other side of this story starts looking even more frightening fast. Here is where the Houston Texans become hard to talk about without sounding scared. The offense can grow, the line can settle, CJ Stroud can sharpen, but the defense is already sitting near the top of the sport, waiting like a locked door. Houston finished first in total yards allowed, and second in points allowed, with 277.2 yards and 17.4 points per game. That is not noise, that is proof. It starts with pressure that does not need help to feel dangerous. Will Anderson Jr. brings burst that bends the edge before tackles can breathe. Danielle Hunter gives the other side a veteran closer who understands how to ruin timing without chasing ghosts. When those two squeeze the pocket, quarterbacks do not just feel hurried. They start guessing. And once a passer begins guessing against Houston, the back end turns every late throw into danger. That is where Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock, Jalen Pitre, and Reed Blankenship make the whole thing feel unfair. The coverage can press, rotate, bait, and close fast. Aziz Al-Shire brings the voice in the middle, while Henry Toto keeps the second level moving clean. This group does not need to talk loud. The tape screams. And if the offense finally stops putting it in rescue mode, this defense becomes more than Houston's strength. It becomes the weapon that drags the Texans into the AFC's deepest fight. Nick Caserio did not build this offseason like a man chasing headlines. He built it like a man who remembered the exact sound of a playoff door closing. The Houston Texans added power in the places fans do not always cheer first: inside, underneath, and near the ball. That tells you everything about the plan. Houston wanted a tougher team, not just a prettier one. The draft made that message loud. Keelan Rutledge arrived as the first-round rookie guard, a pick aimed straight at the middle of the offense. Caden McDonald brought heavy hands to the defensive front. Marlon Klein gave the tight end room another body who can block and grow. Then came Febechi Nwaiwu, Wade Woodaz, Kamari Ramsey, Lewis Bond, and Aiden Fisher, each one adding competition, where strong teams quietly separate from thin ones. Free agency carried the same mood. David Montgomery gave the backfield a punishing voice. Dalton Schultz kept trust in the passing game. Sheldon Rankins helped the interior stay grown. Braden Smith and Wyatt Teller brought weight to a line that needed more than promise. Nothing here feels random. It feels like Houston looked at the AFC and said finesse will not be enough. And that matters now, because the next fight is not only inside the building. It starts with the division trying to block their climb. That is where the whole season gets personal fast for this roster again. The Houston Texans can look dangerous on paper, but the division will decide how real this rise feels. The Jacksonville Jaguars are not handing anything back. They took the crown, they know Houston is coming, and that makes every meeting feel bigger before the first snap even arrives. This is not a soft race. This is a warning. Trevor Lawrence still gives Jacksonville a quarterback who can punish hesitation. Travis Hunter adds a rare two-way spark that changes how opponents prepare. Jacoby Myers gives that offense another trusted target when games get tight. That is why Houston cannot walk into the South acting like the job is already done. Respect matters here. The Jaguars prove they can stand in the way, and the Texans have to take the throne, not wait for it to fall. The rest of the division creates a different kind of test. The Indianapolis Colts with Daniel Jones will try to control games and stay clean. The Tennessee Titans with Cam Ward bring a young passer who can grow fast if given comfort. Houston's defense has the tools to make those matchups uncomfortable, but division games rarely follow clean logic. They get strange, they get tight, they expose focus. And if the Texans want the AFC to believe this new version is real, they must first handle the teams that know them best. After that, the bigger monsters outside the South start quietly waiting. The late punch in this story is Tank Dell, because his return changes how defenses have to see the Houston Texans. Last season, Houston kept fighting without one of CJ Stroud's most trusted sparks. That mattered. Not because one receiver fixes everything alone, but because chemistry this real is hard to replace when the field shrinks and timing decides games. Nico Collins already gives Houston a strong number one target. Dalton Schultz gives CJ Stroud a steady middle field answer. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel now bring young speed, quick breaks, and return game juice after gaining a year inside the system. But Tank Dell adds a different kind of stress. He can bend coverage, pull safeties out of shape, and make a defense pay for leaning too hard toward Nico Collins. That is when this offense starts looking layered, not limited. The smart part is that Houston does not need to rush the feeling. Tank Dell is coming back from a serious knee injury, so patience matters. Still, his presence alone raises the ceiling. If he gets close to the old version, CJ Stroud suddenly has answers outside, inside, underneath, and deep. Add the stronger line, the heavier run game, and a defense built to steal possessions, and the picture gets serious. The Houston Texans are no longer asking the AFC for respect. They are putting pressure on everybody to prove this fear is not real. And that is where the season starts feeling dangerous for every contender now.